Okay, let's go ahead and do the holly. We're going to start out with the leaves, and I'm using a nice light warm green now. My plan for these berries or these leaves is that they're going to be they're going to have a rim of this. They're going to be variegated, so they're going to have a rim of this light green, and then the majority, did I say rim? I don't know what I mean, border. And then the majority of the leaf is going to be a darker green. So there's two ways you could do that. The way I'm doing it is I'm painting the whole leaf the lighter green, the color of the edge of the leaf. And then I'm going to paint over it with the main color in the center. So you could do that, or you could paint the main color and then paint the border, the lighter color over it with a liner brush, but that seems harder to me. So this is the way I've chosen to do it. And you know, I can do it either way. And before I started, I took a look at the leaves and the berries, and if I thought that, or if part of the leaves, you know, there's still, we painted around them, so there's still the color of the white, or the very light color. If you have lost some of that color, like I did around some places around the edges, all you have to do is go ahead and go back and retouch the light area, which is going to be the base for your leaves and berries, with bleach sand or white, so that you have a nice even color to paint over. Because sometimes, I think especially greens, seems like greens are kind of transparent a lot of the time, so that it's hard to paint paint the green over, for instance, the black or the very dark colors that are behind our leaves here. It's a nice bright green, adds some cheer, I guess you could say, to our painting, because our palette so far maybe is a little dull, but we'll get those red berries in and that'll brighten it up too. I think I probably will get out a small round brush when I'm done with this and accentuate the points on the leaves. It's kind of interesting that not all hollies have pointed points on their leaves, but I think that's the pointed kind are the ones I think of most anyway. So I don't have super duper coverage necessarily on that green, but since I'm painting over most of it with a different green, a darker green, I'm not going to let that disturb me in any way. Okay. Alrighty, let's see. I think I missed this little part in between those two berries. Alright. So, while I'm waiting for that green to get good and dry, let's do a little bit with the berries. I'm going to use a couple colors on these. You know, I think I want some more berries, so, or at least one more berry. I want a berry right over here. So I'm going to paint it with the bleached sand, which will be a good base for my, maybe I'll put one, I don't know, one here. And I think we'll put one here too. Lots of berries. But they're fun. Alright, now, since we're going to be working on these fallen leaves in a minute, let's go ahead and get those painted in, at least for the primary color, which is going to be this light brown. So, as you paint, you get to learn when a round brush is going to serve you best and when a flat brush is going to serve you best. And I think that, for me anyway, when I look and see a lot of these rounded shapes around the edge, I would use a round brush. Okay, and now we can go back and get our berries that we added. All right. Now let's go on to, or go back to the holly, and we're going to use a somewhat darker green for the main part of the leaves. And since we have kind of pointy edges, pointy shapes here, I'm going to use a flat. And I'm just going to paint so that I'm leaving that little edge. Now, here, this leaf is, we're only seeing half the leaf. The leaf is folded, so I'm not going to leave an edge at the bottom. little hard to see where these pencil lines are. If you're having trouble like I am, just stop and take a look at it and reestablish your lines so that you're not confused while you're painting. So over here we have this leaf or this leaf. So this would be hard, I think, to paint with a round brush. But you can get those nice little points when you lean in with this chisel edge. Okay, now here, this lower leaf is coming up over. And some of it I want to paint with the small brush, so I'll be back to do that. Now, let's go back to the berries. Getting out a darker red. And I'm going to side load this little square brush and get a little shading in. Okay. Now, back to our dark green that we were using on the pine branches. And I'm going to use my liner brush. And let's see, how do I want to do this? I'm going to paint the veins. And my paint's a little dry. You don't have to paint every one, just nice to get some in there. And for this one here, all we're seeing is the veins that are coming up from that center vein that's at the base. Let's see, this one is, I think it's attached to the branch here. I think that's the base of the leaf. Okay, now I want to use or put some shading and highlighting on these holly leaves. So for that, I need to know where my light is coming from. I think we said it's coming from the top. If we didn't say that, we'll say it now. And so I'm going to use, I have side load on my brush. And so if it's coming from the top, this would be and I think this would be and the shading is going to go a little bit down into the, what do I want to say, behind some of the more major side veins. So this would be the shadow side. Let's get a little more. This would be the shadow side. It would be shadow in here between these two leaves. And then also at that side of the center vein. Likewise, okay, this is lying under that leaf. So that's going to be shadow. And this side of the center vein is going to be shadow. This bottom of the leaf is going to be shadow. And you know, kind of hate to go over that bright green, but it would be in shadow, so I guess I should. And up here too. And here. Okay. Maybe down here. Okay. And along here. Okay. Now, let's go back for some more shadow on the berries, for which we will use burnt umber. All right, and now some highlights on these holly leaves. So here, I'm using this light green, the same green that we used for the lightest highlights on the pine. I think that's about it. I want to add a little bit of the dark green to just tuck these stems in where they're coming up into the leaf. And like this one, this spot down here would be darker. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. What I'd like to do now, oh, I see some places where I didn't really do much with those pine needles, so let's come back down here for a little bit. Okay, I think that's better. Alrighty, now for our falling leaves. And we're going to use some red like we used for the first layer of the berries. And it's just nice to sometimes add some of that color. We don't necessarily want our colors all just confined to one area in the painting. So unlike those red berries, that's kind of a challenge because, what else do we really have in this painting that's red? Nothing per se, but we can pretend and put some red on some of these leaves. And I'm going to take my pencil and help myself a little bit by reminding myself of where some of these turns are in these leaves. Like this has one here, this has one there. Okay. All right, now I want to also add some terracotta to these leaves to warm it up. In the same way, just our little, use a round brush maybe. And this is just a lighter brown that I mixed with, or from the color we based the leaves with, and bleach sand. Now, I'm seeing something over here that I do not like, which is that I purposely didn't really do much with this little corner of our raccoon because I thought it would be really covered with those pine branches. So there's a couple of I have a couple choices. One is to put another pine branch in there, and the other is to do something more with the fur. And I think I'm gonna try doing something more with the fur. And the same here. So I'm just going to be using my burnt umber. And this isn't necessarily something you're going to have to do on your piece. It just kind of depends on where you put those branches and what you happen to have done in the area behind them. And so you may or may not have to do some touch up like I am, but yeah, it's no big deal. The big deal is to see it. And that's why it's such a good idea while we're painting to always be assessing what we're doing. So we paint and then we look. We look at what we painted and we see whether we have to do something different, something more, take something away, make the change, and then start the next cycle. Paint, evaluate, change, paint, etc. This area down here, below this leaf, just isn't working for me. It's a really muddled up area of the fur, and we're just going to have to unmuddle it. That's a little better. Okay, now while that's drying, I'm going to go back and paint my veins in these falling leaves. I'm going to use burnt umber. Now I want to use this burnt umber for some shading on those same leaves, and what I'm going to use it for is to help differentiate the leaf from its background. And what do I see here but I didn't paint the very top part of this little pine tree way in the back. There. Okay. So the dark shading around parts of the leaf really help. Really help. And I don't want to do it everywhere, just some places. I'm going to use the bleach sand also for other highlights on these leaves. Like here. And where else? Okay, I think that's pretty good. Now we're still having a problem down in this area here. And I'm going to, and this is all, you know, this isn't in the instructions because, you know, I certainly didn't intend for me or anybody else to come up with this problem, but we have, so we just have to use our imagination to figure out how we're going to get out of this situation. And I think we're doing okay so far. Let's see. All right. Okay, now the final thing we have to work on here is her paw. And I waited till the end to do the paw because she is clutching those branches, so it seemed reasonable to paint the branches first. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a very thin wash of the burnt umber to tuck that paw back under the branch. And I'll come back and I'll do a little more too. And likewise in that area. So we have her little fingers that we need to separate. So her paw, we've left it light to this point. It's, to tell you the truth, at this particular moment, I'm not really sure whether they're light or dark, but we'll assume that they are light with dark tips, dark fingers. And I'm just going around the edges of them. And I'm going to do a little more here where I didn't really get as much as I wanted. And that was a mess. It's a little better. Okay. Now I want her to look like her paw is, the fingers are curving down. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to make the sides that would be turning darker. So my favorite dark burnt umber, sorry. And oops. I don't know what that was about. All right, I think that's pretty clearly a hand. But I do want to point these little fingers because she's got claws. Okay. And I get some white. Let's put some highlights on these berries. And maybe a few bright ones. Not really necessary because it's snowing. It's not going to show that much. Okay. And black claws. All right, so I also want to lighten up this edge a little bit with some more fur coming over the tree. This is bleached sand. What we need is more whiskers. I think she looks pretty sweet. We can go on forever with her. Just painting more fur, making her fuzzier, making her even more adorable than she already is. I think she's fine though. I think her muzzle might be just a little too white. So I'm going to get a very small amount burnt umber on my brush and push that back a little bit. All right, I think that's it for a raccoon. Now you know the finishing part. We will use our toothbrush, we will spritz, and then we'll come back and paint the individual snowflakes. Everybody's moaning, I can just sense it. Oh, here's my toothbrush, okay. So, get a little water in the toothbrush, pick up some paint. Now this time, we're going over her, although we haven't done that before. Too much. Got way too much there. Just have to watch, pull it back out if it's more than you wanted. Okay, I think that is maybe a little more. Okay. What I will do next is, with my liner brush and my white paint, I will tediously add individual snowflakes everywhere. And I will try very hard not to line them all up like little soldiers, to have some nice variation in the sizes of the dots. And you know, it seems like it takes a long time, but really it doesn't. Okay. I don't think there was any real benefit to you to see those snowflakes getting painted, even sped up. But now I'm painting the edges. And on my prototype I painted the dark green, but I'm going to see how I like this colonial green instead, not quite so dark, which is just a matter of taste. For my final step, I'm going to get out, I have gotten out my gold paint, and I'm going to put a finger edge on here, like I did on the warm-up piece. I'm not quite so concerned about keeping it narrow as I was on that piece, because this is bigger and it can stand a wider edge. I always like gold, gold and copper. Haven't found a silver I think is really special. Like to. And there we have it. Gathering greens. Community-minded, wonderful little raccoon. And I hope she has found her way into your heart, and that you're happy with your piece, and that your piece will find a way onto the wall in your home. So thanks so much for joining me for this piece. I hope you enjoyed it. Bye-bye.